Hey there, and welcome back to Remnant 2. We're going to be doing a themed build today. This is a kind of Ravager Alchemist guy, right? And we're going to be playing on Apocalypse, so we can see how the whole thing does there. All fun and stuff like that. The overall build, though, it has a big focus on bleeding stuff. That's just the negative status effect. We're not using the Ritualist, though. And then, just some mixed in melee and range damage. Everything's going to be themed around bleeding, themed around the Ravager. So as we go from the top, we have the Alchemist because we're doing an Alchemist thing. I considered using the Ritualist, and I was doing it for a bit there. And it works really well. It works really well as far as like clearing lots of enemies with that prime perk that just spreads the bleeding and stuff around. But ultimately, the bleeding just doesn't do well with the vial. The cut and damage it takes, or the cut in DPS is really the thing. The cut in DPS it takes is awful. Absolutely awful, because we're going to be using twisting wounds, we're going to be using the various Ravager guns, and it just doesn't do very well. It turns into like 10 damage a second or 20 damage a second, but with our current setup, we're going to be doing like 70 to 90 damage per second on each tick of the bleeding, and it's so much better in this setup. Now, granted, you have to keep reapplying it because the duration is much shorter. But really, for most of the fights, you're going to be constantly reapplying it anyways, and for the little guys, you're taking them out quickly anyways, so you don't need it to last for 20 seconds. So for me right now, this works better, but also the Vial perk would be really good for just like spreading and hitting a lot of guys. But we are going to be able to have 4 concoctions total active, so we're going to have lots of buffs from there. And then I'm going to be running the Elixir of Life, because with the Ravager, right, he was defeated. Lost to the previous guy, was going to die, reached out to the root, and they brought him back. So here's the Elixir of Life. That's him coming back. Gameplay-wise, though, you could totally use whichever one you feel like using. Now, the Stone Mist could be pretty fun with some of our melee stuff, and the Mutators going on there, and when we get there, I'll explain a little bit more. Kind of the same thing with Frenzy Dust if you really want to lean into that fire rate and stuff. Second one is the Invader. It's a root archetype, so I figured it would be kind of nice, and I like I like Wormhole a lot. If I feel like I need to be more kind of just defensive, I'll throw on Void Cloak or whatever I need to use, maybe the Reboot. But I really like the Wormhole one. It's like the Ravager jumping in or something like that. Now, armor-wise on the left, it's kind of a mixture of the various Kiesha armor. We've got the Elder Headdress on, Red Widow Raiment, and then Radiant Greaves and the Radiant Bracers. Puts us at a 49.1 weight limit. You could adjust those a little bit more, still using the Red Widow and the Radiant armor, and be at a little bit more damage reduction. It was a little bit higher weight, but still right in that medium roll. So it just depends on what you want to use. This is just me using fashion for Kiesha stuff, right? Relic, we've got the Lifeless Heart because it's the Ravager relic, right? It's okay, it only heals a small amount, but you've got double the capacity. So I'm gonna try and be good. I've not been super amazing about it, but using it preemptively because we can use it to get a bonus from here, the Experimentalist perk from the Alchemist. So that's gonna give us like a random buff, and it'll help out our allies as well. In addition, we get the bonus from this one, so it reduces a threat, makes a clone, and stuff like that, so we can distract enemies. So I do like it for that, but if you're trying to be more efficient with some other things, you can swap it out for a different relic that's going to work better maybe. Now for the start of the real stuff that's happening. So everything we've got here is like bleeding focused pretty much, right? So we've got the Ravager's Mark because this guy is a fanatic about the Ravager. Increases all our damage to bleeding targets. We're constantly applying bleed. Increases by 20%, and then it increases to 30 when they're below 50% health. This is kind of one of those things, relics, that we're going to be applying the bleeding fairly easily, so hitting most of the little guys, it'll be able to get the good bonus. But that 30% when they're under 50%, not really going to be a big noticeable thing until we start fighting elites and bosses. This is one of those relics where, to me, it's it's just a slight number increase without it doing any big crazy effects. You're not going to see it a lot until you're fighting something that's going to have some meat to them. And then we've got Blood Tinged Ring, so we get health regeneration whenever somebody's bleeding nearby. It's got a nice radius. It's awesome that they increase that. Again, applying bleeding all the time, going to be good. We've got the Blood Jewel, so our charged melee attacks apply bleeding. It's 303.8 over 7 seconds. That's because of the next 2 rings that we have going on. We have the Red Ring of Death. So it duplicates our last damaging negative status effect and then reduces that damage. So it's overall just a win. It's really good. The bad thing is, if we apply multiple different sources of bleeding. It doesn't always duplicate each of them. It has like a cooldown of some kind. So, for example, if we're using our Merciless gun and then we apply bleeding from Twisting Wounds, that's the first one that's going to apply. It's going to double that one. But then if we get the secondary bleed effect from the actual gun, which is damaging effect is typically bigger, it's not going to split that one because it's on cooldown from splitting the Twisting Wounds. So, like, it can be a little inefficient in a way, but because we're applying the bleeding so often with Twisting Wounds, it ends up working nicely. It's fine. And then we've got the Bane of the Fanatic. We're a Fanatic, right? Because we're all about the Ravager. It increases our status damage, but decreases their duration, which is fine. It turns our bleeding effects into like real powerhouses. It's pretty good. And I thought thematically if it was kind of the idea of what our dude is doing. Now, gun-wise, we have two long guns that we'll be messing with. We've got the Merciless and we've got the Corrupted Merciless. So both of them involve some bleeding effects. This one, if you shoot it long enough, it will then apply bleeding. This one's mod ability. It has a like railgun firing ability. It has 3 charges, does some good damage, does more damage if it, pierces through multiple enemies. Overall, I mean, it's a good one. If you've never messed with it, the gun itself is pretty solid. The reload speed is kind of the worst part about it, but you can play around with that depending on what you want to set up, right? And then we put the Twisting Wounds in there, like I've mentioned already, increases its damage to bleeding targets by 20%, so that's 20% plus a 20% there, so I mean, it's going to be doing 40% more damage to bleeding guys, and we're going to be constantly applying to bleeding, so it's going to be constantly getting that damage buff, and because it's level 10, it's going to apply the bleeding. If you didn't have it at level 10, this is not going to apply bleeding. You have to rely on the passive, like, innate bleed effect of the Merciless to make it happen. Then we've got our melee weapon, the Feral Judgment. I don't like fist weapons. I'm trying really hard to like this one, and I do, in a way, I think it is a lot of fun. It's also the reason that we are using the Blood Jewel. So the Feral Judgment it's a fist weapon. It's got your general standard moveset for fist weapons. However, the neutral dodge attack is a little different from some of them. You can see it does a synchronized kind of slash, like a Wolverine slash, really, right? But if you went to like the Decayed Claws and you did the full charge one, it does that 1-2 punch. So it is a little different there. But the big unique thing about it is its special ability. So when you deal enough damage or enough melee damage over 10 seconds, it charges it up. And then when you do a neutral backdash charge attack, it will then apply the death sentence, which after a second does like a whole bunch of hits that deal more damage if they are bleeding. That's why I kind of wanted to have the Blood Jewel on just as a guaranteed way. When I hit them with that charged backdash attack, it applies a bleeding, so I'm guaranteed to get the bonus damage on the special effect. And then we put Vampire Blade for a mutator in there, so it does more melee damage to bleeding entities. Or, well, sorry, let me take that back. It does more damage if there's a nearby enemy bleeding. It could count for you too. If you wanted to use the Atonement Fold with the Vampire Blade, then you would be dealing more melee damage. But it's level 10 effect, you have to hit the bleeding targets. If you hit bleeding targets, you will lifesteal part of the damage. That's why I said something about Stone Skin earlier. So you could have the Stone Skin down, which gives you damage reduction, applies your stagger resistance, so that then you could throw that down and you could try and trade with enemies. And because we're going to be constantly bleeding enemies, then we're getting some lifesteal and stuff so that we can actually sit there and trade. Not very efficient with our full setup here because we're not really built to do that. If you really wanted to do that, I would say put on the Dying Ember and then stack some other damage resistance things. Maybe swap the Invader for like Juggernaut, and then Juggernaut you can alternate with that and the Stone Skin, something like that. Because like as it is right now, we can trade with some enemies, but like we can't just sit there and take hit after hit after hit. We're just not quite durable enough because right now our damage reduction is 45%. It's not a huge amount for Apocalypse. Lower difficulties, it's a different story. Then we've got the Bolt Driver. This is just a Yasha weapon. I thought it might fit kind of well, especially if you got some dude who is like maybe part of the I don't remember the name of the group, the ones that worked with the crystals and stuff. And so maybe he was using this and then he just like really fell in with the Ravager because there is a group that does that. And so he's still using their weapons. We put in the Skewer because it's a root mod that goes in there. You could use, if you're really sticking to the theme, you could use kind of any root mod you want to, or you could just use whatever mod you like in general. But if we're using the Bolt Driver, Sequence Shot is just really awesome with it. Once you get that first shot out, it's super fast. You get really quick stacks of the critical hits and stuff. So, I mean, I really like it as well. Bad thing is it doesn't actually do any bleed type of stuff, but it is fun. And then we can talk about our traits. We've got the Potency from our Alchemist. We've got the Untouchable from our Invader. Potency, I'll try and use some of our consumables. I haven't been super good about it because If I stuck to Alchemist more and I remembered to use consumables, probably be better. But as it is, I tend to forget. But if you can remember, you can get a lot of mileage out of this because it makes them last so much longer. But maxed out regrowth, we got a lot of regeneration effects that are ultimately happening with regrowth, with the blood-tinged ring. Our relic, I didn't actually talk about the runes, but you've got increased melee damage, health, and healing effectiveness. So a lot of that regen is going to start stacking up. We've maxed out Fortify as well, giving us some more armor, and then Swiftness so that we can move in kind of quick if we want to and need to, or get out of things. Vigor maxed out, Spirit maxed out, Arcane Strikes maxed out, because I was originally really leaning into trying to do just a melee with the Feral Judgment, but unfortunately, depending on the zone you're in, if you're dealing with like a bunch of flyers and you're using a melee fist weapon, it's just not going to go well. But, you know, when it does work, it works pretty nicely, and we can charge up some of our mods pretty quickly. Siphoner, because we've got some bleed things going on. We're constantly hitting guys. Siphoner's just kind of fun. I only had like 8 points left when I threw a bunch into Amplitude. I don't remember why I was doing that. It had something to do with something else I was setting up. Maybe you don't want that. Run it with something else, you know, whatever you're going to work with. 5 points into Endurance for that little bit of stamina. 5 points into Recovery to help us out with our stamina regen. And then we didn't worry about Expertise. Now let's talk about the concoctions, because we're going to be able to use 4 of them. Right now, I actually have the Verdant Tea in, which increases our stamina recovery and reduces stamina regen penalty, which is nice. Now we've got 3 more slots, so we're going to take maximum health. We're going to take increased armor. We're going to take the Root Water. I like the Root Water and the Bark Extract because they're kind of both, one, they're both defensive things. It's going to help us stay alive, and they're both root kind of based. And then the idea was, like, you know, increasing our maximum health as well is kind of cool. So all of those things I think are pretty solid. If we're doing a lot of neutral dodges, charge melee attacks, Verdant Tea is going to be pretty good for us too. Now we're in the Expanding Glade. We're going to clear it out real quick and fight this little boss here, and then end the video was fighting the Ravager, because that'll be a good, actually, like, melee one. And I think for the Ravager, we'll pull out the Corrupted Merciless, which it has grown on me a lot. I do actually like it now. I like the mod being able to, like, guarantee applying bleed effects, you know, getting some of the simple shots and applying bleeding, which is, like, one of the 3 shots that are in there. It's kind of nice, because it rounds out the damage if you don't want to spend a whole third of the magazine to finish off an enemy. But you can see, like, I mean, little trash guys, absolutely no problem. I mean, status effects are really strong right now, and it's possible the Twisting Wounds is not supposed to be doing this much damage with this combination of rings and stuff. And I really hope that's not the case. I really hope it's supposed to be doing this, because when you have, like, increased duration from the Vial perk or from the Ritualist, it feels awful. This feels amazing, especially when you consider how strong that Corrosion tends to feel and Overloaded. Like, you know, you can throw a single Krellax out with the Ritualist as your primary and then just blow up an entire room. So this doesn't honestly feel that, like, overpowered, right? Like, it's just fun, and I really enjoy that. I really like being able to apply just a couple shots, apply the bleeding. I'm really bad at shooting this railgun, which is really frustrating. And then, you know, just a couple shots there, and then boom, he goes down. I'm actually really bad at fighting these guys, but we'll figure it out. We're going to just keep moving for right now to avoid some of those artillery strikes. And what we're going to do is clear him. We're going to try and teleport in, drop an Elixir of Life, fully charge. And I would like to hit him with a cool melee weapon effect, but we'll see if I can actually pull that off, because this is a lot of dudes. But even though we don't have that huge wave clear like the Ritualist does, all we have to do is a couple shots, apply bleeding, and they will bleed down no problem. A little, like, kind of spray and pray for a second, and we'll be good to go. And what's nice too with these fist weapons, it's a kind of like uppercut movement of it really allows us to catch some of those flying guys. And really that fight went pretty smooth. Once we applied enough, like, bleeding stacks to the, you know, the elite dude, it took out his shields, and he wasn't that sturdy anyways, and he was nice enough to come down to, you know, make it easy for us. Now, one of the reasons I took a lot of things in Spirit and the Arcane Strikes is because I wanted to charge up the mod ability on the Corrupted Merciless, because it gives you infinite ammo. It applies a bleeding effect, which is pretty strong, and so I wanted to be able to charge it up quickly so I could be constantly using it to conserve ammo, apply more bleeding for more damage, and just work with it like that. And this gun, you know, the bleeding effects can end up stacking up your mod pretty quickly. Like, if we can get a dude that doesn't die immediately, like, you can see it chunking up fairly fast. But I'm not very good at using this one's rail shots. I'm kind of bad at aiming them. they're not bad, but I don't love it as much as I think I should. But, you know, that's probably just a me problem more than anything. Alright, let's take on this archer dude. I kind of wanted to use a Corrupted Merciless on him, but the thing is, it really shines when you can get, like, consecutive weak spot hits, because that's where its mod ability really comes in. And this dude's got a little head. It gets blocked by his arm when he's shooting arrows and stuff, so this weapon is just going to be better for us to use it, you know? So that's what we're going to do. That's why I'm using it instead of the Corrupted Merciless. But if we get 3 stacks of bleeding, and you can see it starts chunking them down nicely, we can actually use our mod pretty well here. So as we apply these stacks of bleeding, it should charge up our mod fairly fast so that we can see, this is where I would really like to catch him with some of those melee attacks, but the attacks are just, oops, shit. You know, he's just too quick on some of those spins. We're not going to be able to weave in an attack. But we can get a couple stacks here and then roll and move away from him, right? Yeah. He's got thick skin regenerator. Luckily with the bleeding, one, it just the status over time effect, whatever, is going to counteract the bleeding, right? But also the bleeding negates some of the healing, so it really is perfect for dealing with him. Now there should be some plant things coming out. We'll switch to our bolt driver, because we need to make sure we're actually using that to make sure we're not burning through all of our ammo on the Merciless. That way, you know, we can keep actually dealing damage to this guy. Maybe I can... Oh, he kept moving forward. Whoop. Alright, yeah. Let's go and reload. Swap it over. Where's he at? And then, you know, the rest of this fight is going to be pretty much this. You can see we're going to do fine for damage. It's nothing, you know, we're not blowing him up in a single shot or anything, right? Which is fine. 1, 2, 3. But as long as we stick to the core of the mechanics of this fight, we're not going to have any issues with it. As long as I don't flub it, you know, let myself get hit with a belly slam 100 times in a row. We won't be an issue. Now, this could be one where you could argue, you know, in a boss fight that, like, you want to have that increased duration with the status effect. But at the same time, when we're actually, like, dealing damage to him, we're constantly applying it anyway. So it's, like, not super required, right? Because we're applying it anyway. So, like, why have the increased duration if we can just keep dealing more damage? You know what I mean? We're just going to circle around this. I haven't even used the Elixir of Life yet. Those are some awful shots to start with, but that's okay. Boom. Oh, he's coming down. I missed him. Of course. 1, 2, 3. There's a little hit. Apply 3 stacks, please. There we go. Look, it's just nice to use status effects for a boss, because you can just apply it and then play defense for a second while it does the work for you, basically. Even the Blood Jewel, you know, the damage it does isn't huge. But really, if you're on top of the dudes and you're kind of constantly dealing damage to, having another, like, 58 damage when it doubles up is reasonable. God damn it, I cannot hit that shot. See, it's more user error than anything. It's not that the rail shot is bad. It is good. But oh me, I can't seem to hit a target for the life of me. Unless I just aim for body shots. All right, this should be it. Get the double stacks. There we go. Howie. You know what I still have not done yet? Is, you know, use my relic to actually apply the buff like I said at the beginning. Or use consumables or anything like that. You know, a whole, like, quarter of the build. That's fine. That's fine. So, some fairly standard bosses and stuff, if you've got good mechanics for the boss fight, you're going to do fine for DPS and burn them down. It's just a nice, steady DPS, you know, nothing super fancy. You get the fun bleeding effects on the enemies, you know, elites and little guys. Apply the bleed, disengage. You can use a wormhole. I wasn't very aggressive on using it in that little run of the dungeon, but you can use it to get in and out of the fights and stuff and rely on your melee. Obviously, those types of enemies, not very good for it because, you know, they're flyers. And you trying to hit those flyers with some, like, friggin' claw uppercuts and stuff and disengage into double claws, awful idea. But you start moving into Lawsome, you got a lot of the Fey aggressor dudes or some of the melee elites in Yesha, things like that. You know, you can get some nice mileage out of it. But let's go ahead and get over to the Ravager. You know, it'd be really funny is if instead of the boss fight, it was like, all right, time to do the boss fight. I'm a Ravager fanatic, and I just Kill that. That's the end of the video. All right, we're gonna fight the guy though. We're gonna heal the thing because that's what my little one wants me to do, and we'll see how it goes. We are using the Corrupted Merciless, so yeah, let's rock it. Skip. Let's activate it now. Let's see if we can start getting some shots. Oh, I did a little early on the extra dodge. You know what I didn't do? I did not use my relic for a buff. Huh. Look at that. Just like I said. Constantly forgetting. Using it now. Thick skin. Another regenerator, dude. Look at that. In a way, I guess it's kind of annoying because it sort of counteracts our bleed. But, I mean, I guess we're counteracting each other. So it's a nice little even symbiosis, right? The balance. Oh, that was really unfortunate. Let's use this. I didn't think the rollers would get on me that soon. That was my mistake. And then I tried to use the elixir of life right away, so that because I knew I was going to get hit hard, and so I thought maybe I could pull it out in time. I could not. 1, 2. I would like to get the cool death sentence. Owie. We can use our root thing, right? Remember to use consumables, right? I've got that bonus going on. Look at all that health regen we've got going on. Too early. One, two, now death sentence. It's still not good. It's still not enough melee damage. Man, see that's really frustrating. Like I feel like I've been hitting him. I guess it's just not quite enough hits in a row within the 10 seconds to really pull it off. But I just can't get enough consecutive hits while he's also hitting me. You know what I mean? Use this now, because that's gonna happen. I didn't recover in time. I died because I used that thing, which is really annoying. I managed to dodge that thing simply because I heard it coming. Slice. 1, 2. Oh, you son of a bitch. I need to get rid of him, please. Watch out for his shockwave. There it is. Yep. As long as we stay careful for a second, we're gonna have a lot of regen to get us topped off again. He's gonna come in with some melee. 1, 2. 1, 2, and then we see if we had latency. Guess what? We would have the death sentence going off. Now we have death sentence. Yep, there we go. Lots of siphoning kind of came off of that, which is cool. Taking careful shots because we want to make sure we get the resets on our ammo. 1, 2. Oh, messed that up. There we go. Now we are bleeding, which is sort of okay. Is that another death sentence? Nope. I want to roll again to kind of trigger that. I want to use that. I was trying to use that as like its trap form to try and catch them when they charged me. Sort of worked. Get another shot. Get them bleeding. That'll get us some more regen and all that. And now we just stay away from that thing, right? Oh man, we got a weak spot hit. The good thing was his weapon. It's going to be nice when he starts doing that big howl thing at the end. We'll be able to do some solid damage from a distance, because we'll be able to just nail weak spot hit after weak spot hit while he's sitting there doing his stupid big howl. I missed a shot, so I'm going to have to manually reload. Here comes some more melee attacks. Try and get some hits on here. I was a little too greedy there. And now he's far away, so we can't, like... 1, 2, and now death sentence, right? I mean, it's... If you can hit it, it does decent damage. It's just, you know, making it happen. That's the problem. We've got 50 seconds left for our elixir of life. I mean, it's recharged already, so we could use it for regen, but we won't get the respawn effect of it, which is a little unfortunate, but that's okay, you know. Alright, let's teleport in. Hit him with a death sentence. Nope. Okay, we're gonna hit with some of these. We're gonna drop an elixir of life now. We still got time on there, but I want the regen just to heal me up because of things like that, right? There we go. Uh-oh. Move, 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 move. Wormhole away. Again, wormhole coming in clutch. And now we just take some shots. Oh, I missed that last one. It sucks. And now we just do some nice bits of DPS while we can. Charge attack, except I missed it. And now we just do this whole dance for the next 30 seconds, which is annoying. There's some good shots. We've got a wormhole charged up, so we'll be able to get out of there if we need to, which we will. Come on. Doing it again. Yep, there it is. There was that little hop, right? Like I mentioned before. Activate it now, and then bang, bang, bang. I missed the first one, so that's a bummer. Chop. Whoop. Alright. I'm actually really low on this ammo. I think that happened to me before on one of my other attempts. Slice. Ah, good finish. Oh, there it goes. Ravager down. Not a bad fight. The Corrupted Merciless on it works fairly well. It's got a huge weak spot for you to just get lots of chain shots. And, I mean, running this with, Bullet Storms is really cool and good anyways. Running it with Bullet Storm is a lot of fun, though, too, because you can true full auto and shoot out a lot of shots back to back. So, in that fight, a Vampire Blade on our Feral Judgment, we only pulled it off, like, twice. Like I said, I could have done better, right? I could have worked it better, could always do better and get it more easily, more efficiently. But it just feels a little unwieldy. If I was using latency, however, that would have worked way better because I could have hit him like those couple times after he does his attacks and then do the neutral dodge attack and actually get it to trigger. But as it was, it just takes too many hits for me to like efficiently get it in a fight. And then even like elites, I fought a couple more elites, and I'm debating whether I'll actually put any of those in the video using, I was using this weapon, really trying to pull it off for the elites. And I mean, it works, but at the same time, it just takes so much work to make it happen when you could just be better off just doing nice, simple things to just finish them off. It's fun. I just think it needs like, I don't know if it needs less damage or something, or less melee damage to make it happen. I wish the bleeding effect counted as the melee damage. Like, that would be fun, but, whatever. I wonder if... I gotta try a couple things. There are some interesting things with it. The Shocker, if you hit him with the Death Sentence, those things are like... Those Phantom Strikes it does are like melee hits. So it'll actually charge up your Shocker ability. So you can get Shocker charged up and the Death Sentence, neutral dodge, hit him. That'll trigger Shocker, hit a bunch of dudes, and then those Phantom Strikes will start hitting the guy, which will immediately charge up Shocker again, and then you just do a regular charged melee attack, and so you can do like a double back-to-back Shocker thing. I'm going to show you real quick, maybe. Alright, Shocker's charged up, neutral dodge back, and slice, and then watch, it's charged up, and then we did another one. Then we did another one. There you go. So you can get two like Shocker things like back-to-back pretty quick, and then, just kind of do your normal thing here, charge it up again, boom, slice, get ready for it, and it's already charged, hit it again, so that's kind of fun. But I want to test something real quick. So will the Tainted Blade damage count as melee damage to charge this thing up? No, it does not. Unfortunate. Yeah, I wish something did it better. Some of these are okay for it. I don't know. I like it, but some of the things I wish were a little bit better for it. Like, latency is nice. I mean, watch, you do 1, 2, 3, boom. And there it goes. 1, 2, notch back, slice, 1, 2, dodge back. So, like, in that scenario, that's pretty good. Like, I probably should have just been running latency is really what I should have done. But I just really liked the Vampire Blade idea in there because it kind of goes with the Blood-Tinged Stone thing, and the lifesteal is kind of cool, like all that stuff. But latency is probably your better choice there. But at any rate, that's it. That's our little Ravager Alchemist guy. Pretty fun. I like the bleeding effects. Bleeding is just strong. It's just a bleedy kind of build with some, fun other things sprinkled in there, I guess. Something. I don't know. Thank you for watching. Always really appreciate it when you do. Hope you enjoyed it. Give you some ideas of things to try out and stuff. Just different stuff. And until the next one, take care.